dailymaverick.co.za. Eskom CEO André de Ruyter resigns. Written by Ethan van Diemen on the 14th of December 2022. André de Ruyter, Eskom CEO, has handed in his resignation letter to the board of the power utility. The news follows a particularly bad bout of load shedding and escalating attacks from Minerals and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe, among others. Eskom Group Chief Executive André de Ruyter has called it quits after a tumultuous period as head of South Africa's power utility. According to a breaking news report in News 24, de Ruyter notified board chairperson Mpho Makwana of his decision earlier in the week, who then informed Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan. Makwana is expected to take over from de Ruyter while a replacement is sought. At the time of writing, de Ruyter had not responded to Daily Maverick queries, but the parastatal's chair said a statement was being prepared. South Africa is currently experiencing stage 5 rolling blackouts after power station breakdowns and less money to buy diesel forced Eskom to escalate rolling blackouts to stage 6 last week. Commenting on the development, Chris Yelland, energy analyst and managing director at EE Business Intelligence, told Daily Maverick that without a single word of support from the president, the finance minister, the DPE minister, and the Eskom board chairman after the attack by Mantashe accusing André de Ruyter of treason, I would expect nothing different except that de Ruyter should resign in disgust. Yelland was referring to recent comments made by Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe, who, at the signing of power purchase agreements with independent power producers, said Eskom, by not attending to load shedding, is agitating for the overthrow of the state. We are from the period of state capture, but load shedding is becoming worse than state capture, said the minister, adding that the levels of crime and sabotage were limiting economic growth. De Ruyter has previously said that corruption, mismanagement, and lack of skills, maintenance, and sabotage have brought the power utility to its current state. The year 2022 has also seen the worst levels of load shedding. He also said that the lack of capacity left the utilities management with little room to do the necessary work to end the load shedding. Any other government can be overthrown for this level of load shedding. Eskom, by not attending to load shedding, is agitating for the overthrow of the state. If it is not addressed, then the state will be failing to do what it needs to do. Load shedding is urgent. It must be attended to sooner than later, said Mantashe. We're engaging with Eskom more aggressively and telling them to get investment into the grid as quickly as possible. Energy is always used as a factor that attracts investment into the economy. And at the time they said, this is a developing story. I now read another article from dailymaverick.co.za with the title being De Ruyter Resignation, Tripping the Light Fantastic. This one was written by Ray Hartley and Greg Mills on the 14th of December 2022. André de Ruyter's mission was, in many respects, impossible. He set about trying to shore up Eskom's finances and managed to finally curb the growth of the utilities debt. But applying balance sheet discipline came at a cost for those who had fastened their mouths onto Eskom's contract teeths. André de Ruyter's resignation as CEO of Eskom illustrates the dysfunction at the heart of the public service and shows how the road to fixing South Africa's ailing state-owned enterprises is littered with political roadblocks. De Ruyter is the 15th CEO of Eskom since 1994 and barely served 3 years. Actually, a long stay by recent standards. The recent average term of office has been 1 year or less. There is the usual cacophony of uninformed noise over whether de Ruyter should have resigned. His critics say he should carry the can for failing to prevent the country's worst period of load shedding, while his supporters say he was given an impossible task with one hand tied behind his back. It is true that load shedding accelerated under de Ruyter, but the causes of this are complex and deserve some attention. He is often compared unfavorably with Brian Molefe, accused of capturing Eskom in one of the biggest public sector corruption capers of recent times. Molefe, the argument goes, kept the lights on. This is true, but Molefe and others kept the lights on by vacuuming masses of cash off the government balance sheet and running Eskom's power stations to breaking point on low-grade coal secured through contracts that investigators are still trying to untangle and reverse. The departure of critical skills and the hiring of unqualified and incompetent power station managers accelerated. Mission impossible. De Ruyter's mission was, in many respects, impossible. He set about trying to shore up Eskom's finances and managed to finally curb the growth of the utilities debt. But applying balance sheet discipline came at a cost for those who had fastened their mouths onto Eskom's contract teats. Eskom, bereft of key skills, was by the time de Ruyter took charge essentially a contract management agency, acquiring critical skills to plaster over the cracks at inflated, exorbitant prices and with burdensome regulatory requirements. Adding to his problems was the fact that neither he nor the Chief Operating Officer Jan Oberholzer had experience dealing with power stations and generation, the part of Eskom most urgently in need of attention. There is no shortcut to sorting out Eskom. It is all about fixing, maintaining, and refurbishing the coal-fired fleet while procuring new sources of energy. The former has fallen short due to the skills shortage, and the latter has been slowed by the bureaucratic trickle emanating from Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe, a self-confessed coal fundamentalist. The roadblocks. Which brings us to the political roadblocks. De Ruyter's ability to remove the layer of incompetent leadership and replace it with the technically proficient has faced political headwinds. By some quirk of industrial history, the trade union that operates at Eskom is the National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, or the NUM. Both President Cyril Ramaphosa and Mantashe are former general secretaries of NUM. Transitioning out of coal towards renewables requires political will to manage job losses, replacing as many as possible, but not all, with jobs in renewables and other new sources of generation. This is politically tricky. The unions and threatened managers reacted to de Ruyter's attempt to clean house by deliberately sabotaging electricity production in what must amount to the biggest shakedown in public sector history. Examples included the removal of an oil plug to bring Camden Power Station to a halt and the shipping of rocks instead of coal to Majuba Power Station. We do have mysterious failures, oil leakages, equipment knocked out. So this is a serious problem and it is quite wide-ranging, said de Ruyter. Mantashe in particular has made a political target of de Ruyter, going so far as to say he may be engineering load shedding to bring the government down. ANC versus the country. Essentially, de Ruyter has been forced out because his program interferes with political support for key players and dodgy rents paid to others. In short, the interests of the country are playing second fiddle to the dysfunction that the ANC has brought into governance. De Ruyter will stay on for several months to smooth the transition to a new CEO, but he will be a lame duck, unable to implement the program to clean up the utility. The country and its interests are once more playing second fiddle to the machinations of ANC politics. We are in a dire situation or position. At stage 6 load shedding, which has become increasingly common, the country runs on less than half of Eskom's boilerplate capacity. Where the engineering skills and maintenance funds will come from to sort out the mess remains a mystery. Tens of billions of rands are owed by municipalities that have become largely dysfunctional under the ANC, with just 41 of 257 gaining clean audits, 22 of them run by the opposition. There is no sign that there is any political will to actively campaign for these municipalities to pay their bills and relieve the financial pressure. This week, the Brenthurst Foundation released scenarios for South Africa under the title The Good, the Bad, and the ugly. A key precondition, perhaps the key precondition for economic growth, is the provision of adequate energy. But as de Ruyter was abandoned by Mantashe and Minister of Public Enterprises Pravin Gordhan, because South Africa must have two ministers responsible for the utility to further complicate the problem, and then by Ramaphosa, who remained silent as de Ruyter was hauled over the coals, it became clear that there is no path to energy recovery. Renewables agreed too reluctantly and too late provide some hope, as does the lifting of cap on private energy production. But this does not address the reliable volume of affordable energy needed to power a country with any sort of industrial base. Choices. So what are the options now? South Africa won't quickly become a failed state. Zimbabwe, which had far less meat on the bone, took a long time to run down to its current pitiful state. And even that country still, after 40 years of ruinous ZANU rule, has some way to go to reach Somalia's status. The problem is that liberation movements are ill-suited to govern. Successful governance requires difficult choices, abandoning all ways of thinking for innovation and a desire to serve all the people, not just the comrades. South Africa will settle in a trajectory where some basic elements, including power and water, will continue to fall, and in so doing generate a significant increase in poverty and social fracture. In our scenarios, the good, bad, ugly, and fistful of sense, we posit the possibility of a change from our current trajectory towards a failed oligarchy, in which a small elite is enriched while the country sinks into oblivion. That current path requires a commitment to reform, the appointment of skilled leaders with the ability to take the country on the road to modernization and progress. If Eskom fails and the rent seekers prevail in the name of party unity and presidential power, our ugly scenario, rent seeking and collapse, is firmly on the agenda. Ray Hartley and Craig Mills are with the Brenthurst Foundation. You can find them on www.thebrenthurstfoundation.org. 2 articles from the dailymaverick.co.za. I'll just quickly give a few of my thoughts before I shut down this video. André de Ruyter has resigned. I support his resignation because I do believe he has failed in ending load shedding, in even lowering load shedding, and we've had the worst year of load shedding in the 15 years we've had load shedding as a country. It is noble. He's admitting defeat, and of course he's no longer getting political support from a Gwede Mantashe, from a Pravin Gordhan, and obviously Cyril Ramaphosa is fighting his own political battles with Phala Phala and the ANC National Conference, which literally is tomorrow, or I think it's around now in December, mid-December. Noble of André de Ruyter. I'm happy that he's left. I believe that he was not competent, not strong enough to fight the fights needed at Eskom. And there are people that have said that he didn't do a good job of the previous companies where he had been the leader. Noble. Gwede Mantashe is saying André de Ruyter's failed. How ironic. Gwede Mantashe, Pravin Gordhan, Cyril Ramaphosa are responsible for the placement of André de Ruyter at Eskom. If André de Ruyter has failed, why are they not accepting accountability as well and saying they have failed, perhaps in the people that they place at Eskom, and that they have failed because we can look at André, but the ANC government and these political leaders, they are also responsible for the failure at Eskom. Where is their nobility in stepping down, in moving aside and saying we failed? We were meant to fix this thing 15 years later, after 3-4 presidents. We have failed. We have tried and failed. There is sabotage from arguably some of our people as well. Gwede Mantashe, Cyril Ramaphosa from NUM, but clearly maybe they are failing to have conversations with the guys at NUM. Who is responsible for potential sabotage? Again, it's alleged, because if it was clear, people would be jailed. We would know exactly who's responsible. Or is this just a ploy? Number one, from Cyril Ramaphosa, Jeff Radebe, Patrice Motsepe, to move from coal to alternative energy, where understandably they stand to make a lot of money. Cyril, Jeff Radebe, Patrice Motsepe, and a whole lot of their other friends in business. Who is currently supplying diesel to Eskom? Who is making money from diesel every time there's load shedding? Who are the people that are still supplying Eskom? When we speak about contract teats, the people that are milking the most money from Eskom, some people would probably assume that it's these black tenderpreneurs. But is that the case? Who are the biggest beneficiaries of the coal contracts? Who are the biggest beneficiaries of outsourcing the skills that Eskom seems to not have? Is it old employees and managers of Eskom who have left, set up companies on the side, and now the work is outsourced to them at exorbitant prices? And maybe they are also part of the issue that is milking Eskom. It may not just be black people, maybe Indians, maybe white people, maybe some colors. Who knows, maybe even some foreign entities as well. Is it the radical economic transformation faction of Jacob Zuma, who some people have said, oh, Matsila Koko, or Brian Molefe are angry that they've been kicked out with the Guptas, and they and their people are the ones that are causing sabotage? What do they stand to gain? Is it a fact that if Eskom fails, they will be brought in? Jacob Zuma, during his tenure, tried to speak about nuclear energy. He wanted to bring in nuclear energy. It was shut down by people that hated him, by the media, saying nuclear is too expensive, etc. Cyril Ramaphosa comes into power. All of a sudden, let's speak nuclear. Let's speak alternative energy. By the same media that said nuclear is too expensive, we can't afford alternative energy. Thabo Mbeki, who has spoken out now about Cyril Ramaphosa stepping down because of Phala, tried to sell Eskom back in the day and failed. The same accusations of Cyril Pravin that they were sent to go and privatize Eskom so it can be sold to private handlers who will then own what's happening in this country from an energy perspective. Thabo Mbeki tried and failed. He, with his deputy president Jacob Zuma, were meant to implement maintenance and build power stations back then, and they didn't. And then load shedding kicked in. 15 years later, here we are. Who is strong enough to fix Eskom? We don't know. Do we need foreign entities to come in and take over? Is there someone strong enough? I saw Gayton McKenzie has put up his hand and saying, look, I can fix Eskom. It needs someone strong. But it seems the ANC has failed. Not just André de Ruyter. He becomes a scapegoat for now. The next CEO is going to become the next scapegoat. But the issues are with Gwede Mantashe, Pravin Gordhan, Cyril Ramaphosa, the entire ANC leadership. The problem is with the biggest tenderpreneurs at Eskom, the big companies, your Glencores, and other big coal suppliers. Of course, the Guptas were accused at some point, even though they were supplied a very small portion of the coal. Who are the other big suppliers at Eskom? Who is supplying the diesel right now? What is the role of the people that are coming with alternative energy? And maybe they are the ones that need Eskom to fail. Because if Eskom succeeds, no one will want independent power producers. No one will want Patrice Motsepe and all his other business associates and other suppliers to thrive, because we'll say, but Eskom is fine. We've got enough coal for the next 400 years. What about all the people that are complicit? The people that have illegally connected electricity, who are not paying? What about all the municipalities? 41 of them apparently, where consumers are paying to the municipality, but the municipality is not paying over to Eskom. What about them? Who's running those municipalities? Who is responsible? Of which it was said, I think 22 of them are run by the opposition. So they're not ANC. They're actually part of the opposition. They are part of the problem. Is there a political party strong enough, good enough to run Eskom? Are there business leaders strong enough, noble and good enough and not too greedy that are going to run Eskom? Are there foreign elements that actually want Eskom to collapse? Because they know if Eskom collapses, our economy collapses, and they can come in from outside and eat us up for breakfast and run our economy. Maybe a China, maybe a Russia, maybe a Europe, maybe an America, maybe someone else that we don't know, maybe an Australia. What is currently happening? And then we as young leaders, what are we doing alternatively? Orania is leading the pack. As a small little independent town, they have built solar farms. Half of their energy is now off-grid. They are trying to go completely off-grid. What are we doing in our neighborhoods, in our communities to try and go off-grid and not wait for Patrice Motsepe, not wait for all these others? Look, I'm using Patrice as just a name because we don't know all the other names and faces of the other 25 independent power producers that have gotten licenses. Why is there still steep regulation in producing power and energy? In a country that is clearly, when we speak about emergency, when we speak about COVID lockdown, we're in a state of emergency. This is a state of emergency. Why are hard decisions not being made? Switch off the people that are not paying. Go and remove the leaders of the municipalities that are not paying. Clearly there's incompetency there. Remove the ANC. They are failing the country. They must do the noble thing like André de Ruyter and step down and say, guys, we have failed. The sabotage, the load shedding, the failure at SAA, the failure at the SABC, what's happened at Denel, what's happened with other state-owned enterprises, the potholes on the road, all of that is our failure. Some people might be like, but it's the private sector that actually is causing the failure. If it's the private sector, then the ANC government must sort out the private sector. And if they are failing, they must be removed. André de Ruyter in the past used to say, look, it's not me, it's sabotage. And the argument was, if it's sabotage, fix it. If you can't fix it and you keep blaming sabotage, it means you're not the right person. If the ANC government or any other government, a DA, an EFF, whatever other government is going to say, no, it's not us, it's white monopoly capital, remove them. You claim to be in power. You claim to write and control the laws. You claim to control the police and the soldiers. Remove white monopoly capital. You guys have the ability to implement black economic empowerment. Remove the companies, remove the Jan Ruperts, remove the Nikki Oppenheimers, remove the other big players, the Patrice Mutsipes and other billionaires, if you claim they are the problem. And if you cannot, that means you are not equipped. You are not good enough, strong enough to run this country. Not for the benefits of certain rich people, not for the benefits of the political elite, but for the benefits of the country as a whole. So that we don't have 30 million grant recipients. So that we don't have 52, 54% unemployment, 74% youth unemployment. So that we don't have bad roads and a broken railway system and bad energy and companies that are collapsing and foreign entities that are constantly coming to take up our companies and our economy. We don't have greedy business people. We don't have such high income inequality. We need the type of leadership, not just at a national level, but it starts in your family, in your community, in your city, in your province. Do you have the right leader in your community, in your neighborhood, that is going to say, guys, as you can see, Eskom is failing. Of course, let's meet together as a community at a church, at a community hall, whatever. Let's come together. Let's set up Telegram groups. How can we maybe travel to Orania? We will go, 5 of us, 10 of us as delegates. Go to Orania and ask them, guys, can you please help us set up our own solar farm in our neighborhood? We want to go off-grid. Gayton McKenzie has spoken in the Central Karoo, and I know Rob Hersoff, one of my good mates, has also spoken about the idea of taking the Karoo onto nuclear. They've got, I think, uranium, I think is what's needed. Where are the innovative leaders on the ground? It took Hendrik van der Bijl to build Eskom. But Hendrik van der Bijl can't be this unicorn that existed once in a lifetime. Where are the Hendrik van der Bijls of today? Maybe Matsila Koko, who's meant to be creating plants in Zimbabwe. Where are the innovators, the Aliko Dangotes, the Strive Masiuas? Maybe go to an Elon Musk. Go to the local engineers here. Where are the young kids that have studied at WITS, studied at UCT, studied at Rhodes, that have studied at UKZN, and all these other prestigious universities, Stellenbosch, Pucker, Kofsis, University of the Free State? Where are they? You guys are studying engineering, you go around beating your chest. Oh, I studied engineering, I got a distinction. Where is your innovation? And if the issue is the fact that government are the gatekeepers, tell your stories. You've got platforms. You can come to the panel show. You can go to Podcast and Chill. You can go to the Hustlers Corner. You can go to mainstream media, ENCA, SABC News, Newsroom Africa. Use social media, use your phone like I'm doing now, and tell your story that, guys, a lot of us, we are united. There are 500, there are 1,000 of us engineers. We are able and competent to build 10 Escoms around the country, which have an energy mix, not just coal. But the people that are blocking us are your government. The people that are blocking us are the people that are making money from Eskom. The people that are blocking us are the independent power producers that are about to eat when Eskom collapses. The people that are blocking us are the people that want Eskom to be privatized. The people that are blocking us are foreigners who want this economy to collapse so they can come in. But we are ready. We have got a plan. It's drafted. It's been secured. We've got the patents. We are ready to build an Eskom. We need this much money or no money, whatever. We are the people that, like the taxi industry, I want to have the balls to go around switching off all the homes, all the businesses, all the mines, all the factories, all the government buildings and departments that are not paying the electricity. We need strong leadership, again, not just at a national level, but at a local community level. It's Penny the Black Pen. Thank you to André de Ruyter for his service, all the good he tried to do. I know he lowered the debt at Eskom. Sorry about any potential sabotage or throttling that he got in his job. And I'm wishing the next CEO the best of luck. Eskom is a huge problem, and more than anything, I'm appealing to each and every one of you out there that are going to be watching this video. It's time for you to take accountability as well. Who are you voting for? Who are you supporting? Are you paying your electricity bill? Are you supporting the right type of leaders in your community? If not, are you standing up to lead in your community? It's Penny or the Black Pen. Cheers.